Hey, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, as they say, the third time's a charm. I've been wanting to do this video twice already in the past 24 hours, but I've had to delete certain parts of it. The first one, of course, I was just walking around because, I didn't know if my mom or somebody was going to show up. Third time around, or second time around, I tried to do it, but the battery died, so I had to recharge it. Anyway, again, up there you can see what it says. It's called The History of Disney's Bonkers. Basically, I talked a little bit about this in my pilot episode, my review of the pilot episode that I did a few years ago, and that obviously you're seeing as my 4,000th vid. It's my 4,000th uploaded video, basically being remastered in HD, if you will, something like that. But anyway, a lot of people want an answer to a certain question. They want an answer to a certain question. Now, first of all, to show you that I am a fan of the show, right here is the first DVD I did back in 2003. This was actually recorded through my Apex recorder, as you can see right there. This is recorded with my Apex recorder, and basically what I did is I got about 15 to 16 episodes, I think, on here. Basically about 15. Some of the lucky ones, most of Miranda, and I think 2 of them are repackaged episodes of repackaged shorts from Raw Toonage. The third one, I called it Best of Disney's Bonkers. I actually sent a copy to Sean McLean, Zero Nazarak, if you will, over at, doing a package opening last year. And on here it's basically got Going Bonkers, uncut version. It's got New Partners on the Block, what I consider the sequel. It's got one of my personal favorites, Casa Bonkers, and of course a couple fan vids that I did as well. And believe it or not, I'm not the only one to do fan vids on these characters, so yeah, there you go. But now, basically getting back to the topic at hand on this video, one of the people that a lot of people have been actually happy over the past year or two with the fact that in 3 separate parts, I uploaded the New Partners on the Block episode. The reason they were happy about this is just like with myself, they have not seen it in so long. Basically, the last time we had seen New Partners on the Block was initially the year it came out. And after that, it's like after 95, that's when episodes like New Partners on the Block left the air and were never seen again. But I'll get into that in a second, or in a minute or so. But let's talk about the history of the show, shall we? First of all, as far as the show goes, it originally started, and again I mentioned this in my review of the pilot episode that I did a couple years back, and of course like I mentioned, you saw the HD remastering of as my 4,000th vid. Basically, Bonkers and his friends started out on a Disney Saturday morning show on CBS called Raw Toonage. Now, Raw Toonage, in case nobody knows, was basically a version of Saturday Night Live almost. Basically what it was is that you had small segments, small 1 minute, 2 minute segments, and sorry about that. Again, you had small 1-2 minute segments, and of course you also had your primary 7 to 8 minute shorts, which starred the characters that were prominently featured in the intro, as well as were going to be the characters that were going to be spun off into their own series a year later. And of course those characters being Bonkers and Master Bellamy. Now, Raw Toonage also had, like I said, Raw Toonage was like a Saturday morning version of Saturday Night Live. Like I said, it had small 2-minute to 2-minute skits, as well as its 7 to 8-minute shorts, or 11-minute shorts, or whatever you want to call them. Let's just say 7 to 11-minute shorts, starring Bonkers, with one starring Bonkers and the other starring Masupalami. And just like Saturday Night Live, they would have a variety of hosts, different cartoon hosts, if you will. For example, one week they would have, and they were mostly all Disney characters. Mostly Disney characters from Disney afternoon-related shows. Sometimes, from animated films and animated classic shorts and all that. Like, one week they would have Sebastian from The Little Mermaid. Now we know The Little Mermaid was also not just a feature film, but had been spun off about that same year or so before into her own animated series. So it only made sense that they would want to give Sebastian basically it would make sense that they want to connect the two together by having Sebastian be the host for 1 week. And then a following week you would have a character like, say, Don Carnage from Tailspin. You would have a character like, and in the week after that you'd have Launchpad from Darkwing Duck and DuckTales. You'd have Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales. You have Goslin along with Ludwig von Drake. You'd have Goslin from Darkwing Duck along with Ludwig von Drake hosting the show. You would have Ludwig von Drake hosting it himself. You'd also have even the featured characters themselves. Easy for me to say. The primary main characters, the prompted primary characters hosting as well. And the one thing about these host or hostesses, if you will, was that between the primary shorts, the primary 7 to 11 minute featured shorts, as well as the short 1 minute to 2 minute segments, you would have the characters basically evolve. Basically, their situation. Hold on for a second. Sorry about that, folks. I had to let the cat out of the garage and into my room. Sorry about that. But anyway, the point I was trying to say is you would have these host or hostess, and they would kind of have a little bit of a small plot that would take place in between the 7 to 11 minute cartoon shorts that would feature Bonkers and Masupalami separately, as well as the 1 to 2 minute short segments. So while you're watching the short segments and the primary shorts, between all those, you would have a story developing with the host or the hostess. Like with Sebastian, he would try to get to a concert, and he's being chased by the Chef Louis, if you know what I mean. Or you would have Launchpad trying to teach flying lessons and how to survive a crash landing, if you will. Or you would have Goslin wanting to make a real-life monster with the help of Ludwig von Drake. Or you would have Ludwig von Drake teaching you the physics of the science of cartoon physics, if you will. Like why certain characters, make do the things that they do, like the stretch and the squash and the flat and all that. You would have Don Canage trying to look for treasure and encountering Captain Hook at the end, if you can believe that. You would have Masupalami trying to teach Maurice, or trying to put Maurice on a fitness program. You would have Scrooge McDuck trying to get into his vault through a security system that he had put, an advanced security system that he put on it, and now he can't even, get past, to get to his own money bin, or to get past to get into his money bin. And then you would have Bonkers. You would have him trying to deliver a TV to Fawn, and believe it or not, Fawn does appear in the first part and the last part of that story, that host story, if you will, for Bonkers, because he hosted the show one week. Of course, you would have Jitters A Dog. He even hosted it, by kind of showing what a stunt double does. Go figure. Anyway, the whole point about, basically, what I'm trying to say is Raw Toonage was basically, as I mentioned, a Disney Saturday morning version of Saturday Night Live. Now, just like with Saturday Night Live, its two main segments did, as I mentioned earlier, spun off into their own segments later on. Masupalami remained on Saturday mornings and replaced the Bonkers segment with Sebastian. That's right, they gave Sebastian some of his own cartoon shorts. But again, Masupalami had his own show on CBS. Bonkers got spun off into the next Disney afternoon show. Now, this is where the history lesson comes in. And here's where the real history lesson comes in. You see, back then, even I think the last time was 94 with Aladdin. But back then, from, I'm guessing, the late 80s to the mid 90s, Disney Channel would use the spring and summer of that year, of the following year, before the upcoming fall season. They would use the spring and summer season to give their watchers, and I think at the time, if it was a primary channel, if you will, a primary channel, that's what, what it was, a primary channel. What they would do is they would give the subscribers and the watchers a sneak peek of the shows that were heading into syndication that following year, that upcoming fall season. They would give them a sneak peek at what cartoons were going to be part of an afternoon syndicated block, or in this case, part of the Disney Afternoon. I mean, they did this with DuckTales, they did this with Rescue Rangers, they did this with Tailspin, they did this with Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, and I think they even did it with Gummy Bears, and of course a year later they did it with Aladdin. But they did this, again, to give their watchers, their viewers, and I think because it was a primary channel, or a premium channel, that's what it was. That's the word I'm looking for, premium channel. At times, even before this, give its subscribers and, like I said, its viewers a sneak peek of what was to come. So when it was basically looked at as a premium channel that you had to pay for, they used that to the advantage to give, like I said, the viewers and subscribers a sneak peek at what was heading into the afternoon syndication that following fall, if not until Saturday mornings. And Bonkers was no exception. Bonkers Disney Channel basically gave its viewers a sneak peek at the Bonkers show and what was coming to Disney Afternoon that fall season. However, something happened along the way. You see, the episodes that people saw during the spring and summer of '93 as part of the sneak peek were not episodes involving the character Lucky, not episodes where you had Bonkers teamed up and involved with the human character Lucky Pickell. No. Instead, they were episodes that focused with Bonkers' partnership with Miranda Wright. And again, here's where the history lesson comes in. You see, originally, Miranda Wright was supposed to be his partner. Was supposed to be Bonkers' partner right off the bat. No lie. No lie. She was supposed to be his partner right off the bat. And basically they had this whole thing. Dwayne Capizza and Greg Weismer, who you might know as the co-creator of Gargoyles. Dwayne Capizza, who you also know as somebody that's worked on various DC animated shows and movies, had this all planned out. They had everything planned out for Bonkers and Miranda to have the whole series to be based around them and their partnership. But what happened is that the 65 episodes planned for them got reduced to about 19 to 20 episodes due to the fact that some of the animation was done overseas. And by doing so, when they got some of that animation back, from what I've heard and what I've read, it came back disastrous. It came back unfit. So basically, because of that, they kept 19 to 20 episodes that were already done and ready to air. They ended up dumping Dwayne Capizza and Greg Weismer in favor of another guy called, I think, Larry Lantham. Larry Lantham came in and said, you know what, we'll keep the Miranda episodes. Basically came up with the idea of, you know what, we'll keep the Miranda episodes, and I'll even work with Dwayne and Greg to do a kind of a transitional crossover, if you will. A transitional episode where Bonkers goes from this partner I'm going to put him with to Miranda. So basically the decision was made to make the Miranda episode second, kind of like the second season. So Larry Lantham came up with, in my opinion, my honest opinion, came up with this solution right there. Say, hey, I'll work with Dwayne and Greg to do the transitional episode, but if I'm going to do some new episodes, if I'm going to do 45, basically 46 or 45 new episodes to fill up the 65 episode requirement for syndication, I'm going to come up, this is what my opinion, what he thought was, I'm going to come up with how he became a cop. First of all, I'm going to come up with his origin of how he became a cop. Because you see, originally the idea, and I think they told Larry this, was it was supposed to be a cartoon based around Roger Rabbit. But because they couldn't get the licensing rights to Roger Rabbit, they decided to go with Bonkers. And again, that's why I think Larry Lantham came up with the idea to do the origin. Like, okay, I'm going to do an origin where it tells how Bonkers went from being a Hollywood star, being the cartoon star you saw on Raw Toonage, to being the cop that he is now. And then along the way, we'll do the transitional episode where he goes from this cop, from this human being as his partner, from this cop as his partner, to Miranda as his partner. And that's why it was decided, in my honest opinion, I feel, it was decided that that Larry Lantham went with the character of Lucky, created and went with the character of Lucky Bickel because he wanted somebody that was kind of similar to the Eddie Valiant character. Someone that didn't like tunes at first, didn't really understand why they did certain things, but then later on started to soften up to them and get a better understanding as to why they did certain things or why they acted the way they did. So basically, kind of like in the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, how Eddie at first is kind of very, I hate tunes, I don't like being around tunes and all that. But he ends up later on, with the help of Roger Rabbit, he ends up kind of softening up to them, kind of, warming up to them a little bit, and having a better understanding as to why they act the way they do, and why they do the things they do. And that's the same thing with Lucky. You even see it in the pilot episode at times. But throughout the run, throughout the first, 20 episode run or something like that, I can't really remember. The first, I think, 20 plus episodes or 25 episodes, I can't remember. Basically, you saw Lucky slowly softening up and warming up to why Bonkers acted the way he did. Why he would fall apart, and sometimes Bonkers just alone did the things that he did. So he had a basic understanding. Now, what was funny about this, though, is that when we got to the transitional episode, that wasn't the Lucky episodes were not completely done. They were not. There was some that came on afterwards, believe it or not. There were some that came on afterwards, after the Miranda episodes. So actually, they came on after the Miranda episodes. Basically, I think what we had was 10 Miranda episodes. Then we went into some newer Lucky episodes that had not been released yet because I think it was still in final production. Then we went to the final 10 Miranda, or final 9 episodes of Miranda and Bonkers. So that, to me, was unique. You kind of switched out. It's like, okay, you did you kind of switched out because it's like you did your Lucky ones. Okay, here's some Miranda ones, 8 or 9 Miranda ones, then, or 8 to 10 or whatever. Here's your 8 to 9 Miranda ones, and then here we're going to do some more Lucky episodes, and then here's your other Miranda ones. Now, there were 4 episodes though that they did create that were not Lucky and Miranda related. Instead, the 4 episodes were actually repackagings of the Raw Toonage shorts with some new segments, new animated segments in between them. Now, again, trying to get back on topic here. Basically, for about 20 plus, almost 25 plus episodes, they were nothing but Lucky, and for about 20 plus episodes were nothing but 25, I think, plus episodes were nothing but Lucky and Bonkers. Then they had the first, from what I remember, the first of the repackaged episodes where you had Ski Patrol that consisted of the animated shorts Ski Patrol, Bonkers in Space, and Draining Cats and Dogs. That was the first one, with some new animated segments thrown in. And then the following day, from what I remember when I first saw it, you had New Partners on the Block. And to me, this is why I consider New Partners on the Block the sequel to Going Bonkers, because it was the same animation team that did the pilot. You had the same CGI effects when it came to the rain, the same darker atmosphere at times, and you had all the characters. You didn't just have some randomly thrown in newer characters that nobody knew about. You had, along with Bonkers, along with the official introduction of Miranda, courtesy of Larry Lantham, the official introduction. Larry Lantham, Drain Capizzi, and Greg Westmeyer, we'll give him the credit there. Along with her official introduction in this episode as Bonkers' partner and friend, or soon-to-be partner, friend and soon-to-be partner. And not just, basically what it was, you didn't just, as I'm trying to say, sorry if I'm rambling here, I'm trying to get my mind straight. You didn't just have Miranda. I mean, you just didn't have Bonkers. You didn't just have Fall Apart. Or you didn't just have the official introduction of Miranda as Bonkers' friend and soon-to-be partner, but instead of having some randomly thrown in tune, or randomly unknown tunes, some unknown characters just randomly thrown in there. No, you had Fondier, you had Jitters, you had Grumbles right there at that table with them for that memorial dinner. You didn't, like I said, you didn't have some randomly asked tune, randomly asked tune thrown in there. No, that you didn't know. No, you had Fawn, you had Jitters, you had Grumbles, along with Fall Apart, Bonkers, and Miranda. That told me it was the same animation team and writing team that had done the pilot. And I'm pretty sure Greg and Dwayne were the ones that said, hey, I'm pretty sure that's why Larry worked with those two, to kind of get not only a better understanding of who Miranda was, but to kind of see if it was best to have, because in this episode, in the pilot, you had the characters talk a little bit. I mean, you had Fawn basically looking at the contract saying, I'm overqualified at your job, and then telling Bonkers, we'll stand by you. She's the only one that really talks that much, a little bit more, she's the only one that talks more than Jitters and Grumbles, at times. And even the Mad Hatter and the March Hare. But anyway, she got to talk, and you got to actually see her, not just like, okay, here's a drawn-up, darker version of her, or just hear her, whether you're seeing them coming up the street. You actually see the camera on her. And then you see it on Jitters. Then you see it on Grumbles. And it's like, you couldn't ask for more. But Anyway, it told me that he had help from Dwayne and Greg, Drain Capizzi and Greg Weismer, with that segment, most importantly, as well as with the episode. But anyway, getting to the episode itself, the episode was created due to the fact that I think Larry Lantham knew that fans are going to wonder why is Bonkers teamed up with Lucky and not this Miranda Wright character. Where's Miranda? Well, Miranda did make a kind of a cameo appearance in one episode as the chief's secretary, but then, like I said, didn't make an official debut to, as far as the series goes, it's syndicated wise, the official episode listing wise, until this episode, until New Partners. And basically, the reason this was made, again, was to explain how Bonkers and Miranda became a team. And what happened is that Miranda, well, basically what happens, long story short, Lucky hears about, basically Lucky, along with the entire precinct, hears about the biggest opportunity of sees the biggest opportunity of his life right in front of him, and hears about this new villain called Fireball Frank, who has kidnapped this FBI agent, the CIA FBI agent. So Lucky looks at this as the biggest opportunity he has to get out of the Toon Division, because throughout the whole Lucky run, his one goal was to get promoted out of the Toon Division and out from being Bonkers' partner. I mean, even though he was friends with Bonkers and even though he liked Bonkers, he wanted to basically say, hey, look, I want to try to get to a higher level. I want to be that next, I want to become something more than just, being a, detective to tombs and all that, things like that. Even though, like I said earlier, he was softening up and having a better understanding of why they did the things they did and do the things they do, or act the way they did, he wanted to take that next level and take that next step. But okay, so he looks at this, and basically throughout his opportunities to try to capture Fireball Frank and arrest him, he ends up getting captured after the building after he accidentally trips a tripwire in a building that he sneaks into, setting off, basically causing the building to explode. Now, of course, Bonkers being right there and waiting in the patrol car, thinks his best friend's dead, his partner's dead. Miranda comes in to comfort him and everything, and, well, you kind of get the idea of where it goes from there. And you kind of get the idea, I don't think I have to explain much, how it goes from there. Basically, they find out later on through these cans, these chili cans that Fireball Frank uses to, I guess, have his hot breath or something, his fireball breath or whatever. They find these messages that Lucky's writing with his mouth, with a pencil in his mouth, and tossing out the window on these cans that Follow Pot ironically brought to the memorial dinner. So, again, long story short, not to give much away, and because you pretty much know what happens, but not to give much away, basically Miranda and Bonkers figure out what's going on. They go and basically confront Fireball Frank, help rescue Lucky, as well as help him finally arrest Fireball Frank, and thus get the opportunity, and thus get the big break he's been looking for, not through a promotion, mind you, but through an opportunity given to him by that FBI agent, CIA agent, that was kidnapped by Fireball Frank. We also get introduced to the new, to another character officially called Sergeant Grading, who kind of takes Lucky's place as the guy that hates toons, dislikes toons, doesn't understand why they do this and act like this, but